sky is overcast with dark gray clouds. The strident sounds of the winds blowing is coming closer and closer. We can feel from the air that the day of all evil is coming, the day of Jesa. Does everyone know what Jesa is? Yeah, the Koreans would probably know what it is, but I will briefly explain for those who are not familiar with it. It's basically a memorial ceremony for our ancestors. We bow in front of the ancestors' picture and prepare some food, various kinds of food, so that the spirits can come over and eat. What's the big deal about Jesa is the way it is held. It is broadly accepted that most of the people feel so much stress during this Jesa day that most of the relatives or the married couples go through a big fight during this, around this Jesa season or days. Yeah, someone definitely knows what I mean. The problem that we have with Jesa is so broad, and we know that this is very harmful. What I'd like to tell you is how having an overlook about what's wrong with Jesa. I'm going to tell you why Jesa is evil in details. First of all, it's the hierarchy that's within this Jesa culture. For example, you have to bow according to the order of rank within your family. Most of the people, especially the foreigners, would think that the hierarchy within Korean culture is just determined by the age, which is not true. You also have certain nomenclatures that you use to call someone in your family. Every person has a different nomenclature that you have to call with. And there's also a certain rule about who is in a higher position than the other. And this lost the free communication. That's what we seek for these kinds of activities like Toastmasters. There are, excuse me. Secondly, what I'd like to say is, secondly, it's against women's right and equality. What I mean is this: when we are having Jesa, usually it's only the women who work for Jesa, while the men play with Korean poker games. And the workload is also concentrated on one person. That's the wife of the oldest son of the family. And women are also only allowed to bow after the men do. So this is certainly something that is unequal. I know whenever we prepare these kinds of family events or community things, there's always a possibility that we have conflicts or disputes or arguments, whatever it is. The problem with Jesa is that it precludes us from solving this problem in a logical way. This is what I mean. It denies individuals' opinion or discretions within the organization of the ceremony. For example, there are certain rules that tells you what you must do and what you mustn't. For example, the one who has to host the ceremony. It's usually the wife of the oldest son, as I told you, but is it possible for that person who is supposed to do that say, listen, sister, I'm going to be really busy. Since I've done this thing last year, can you take this rule, this duty over? Can I pass the buck to you? This kind of conversation is impossible. Yeah, it's not allowed. Secondly, the kind of food that we have to place on the table. If we feel so exhausted and we feel it is impossible to make food, can we just make a call, order a pizza, and put it in front of the table so that the spirits can come over, have some taste of our Western style of cuisine? No, it's not allowed. Lastly, can we say, listen, grandfather, I understand what you mean, but I have a different point of view. This is what I think. I don't fully agree with you. Is that possible? Not at all. That's not allowed. So, what I'd like to say is, because there are so many rules that tells us that we should obey, it makes us impossible to negotiate or make discussions with others to solve this problem in a rational way. I know what I'm trying to convince you is how unreasonable this tradition is, this Jesa tradition. It's definitely outdated, it's old-fashioned, and inhumane. Some people might say there are some positive aspects of Jesa, and I won't deny that. But after seeing how my wife's family go through this and understanding the conflicts that arises just because of doing this unnecessary tradition, I would have to say it is doing more harm to us than good. I'm not either saying that we have to quit doing this immediately, because that's not reasonable or feasible at all. But someday we might be able to modify or adjust the way we do this in a modern style or a reasonable way. But for the time being, we know there are so many bad aspects of it, and whether we are going to modify it or abolish it completely, the first step would be understanding the problem and acknowledging it. So I would like you to understand the vices bearing in this tradition and thinking about the negative effect on us before just following the way only because we were told to do so. Thank you very much. I'll give it back to you.